Opening slide, graphic text title. Session 2, Work Conditions, Interests and Contributions. An Introduction to Discovery, Part 4. Customized Employment Planning Meetings with Milton Tyree. Logos, Belonging Matters and Talks That Matter.net.
So this happens after there's been a vocational profile written, after discovery is complete, and discovery is complete when everybody can envision what a good job would look like. I mean, you have sufficient information. Discovery is never really complete because you're always changing and growing and learning new things. But when do you have enough information to envision a good job, you and the family and the person you're representing? So just a little, there's a lot of stuff, but so when you finish the profile, the first group who reads it to edit it, like to do a final edit of the profile, is the family and the job seeker. So you say, this is what I've learned about conditions, interests, and contributions. Now you all tell me, what did I miss? What would you want to change? So everybody has that document. That's like, that's what we're looking at. And everybody has an agreement. So the meeting, this planning meeting, as customized plan for employment meeting, is about employment, not feasibility of employment. And so the people invited need to be people who are solid on that. It belongs to the job seeker. All decisions are approved by the individual. It guides job development rather than simply establishing a vocational goal. It's based on findings of the discovery process. There's a balance in paid and unpaid people. Why would we want that? You have different perspectives. Professionals have something to offer this. Like Pat and I, we've got a lot to bring to the table, but regular community people have a lot to bring to the table too. So the people you've met along the way in discovery are people you want to be at the meeting. And the people, the job seeker approves the people coming to the meeting. You ask him or her, who would you like to be at your meeting? You want about 8 to 10 people. Facilitated by the person responsible for discovery. So I facilitated meetings like for for Sam or Tim, people I've coordinated discovery. And so it's important to prepare the job seeker for the meeting. And so I walk through the meeting kind of like I'm walking through it with you if I'm responsible for the meeting, step by step. This is what it will look like. And look at, what are the charts. I'm going to show you pictures of all of the charts that would be completed. And I ask, what are things that you want to be sure we get up on the chart? And I'll seed the charts. So we get to have in-person meetings again. Oh my, we had so many Zoom meetings, but vastly inferior. But you have a nice room where you have wall space, and you put the charts up on the wall, and you just... So and then you have ideas of what you're looking for. That's what we call seeding the charts. You discuss any sensitive information, if there is any, and how to handle it. Describe how the person has veto power before something gets written on the charts. And you plan their involvement around telling discovery stories. Decide how to invite people and who attends. So you want the job seeker, family members, unless they're family members who aren't on board with the person working. It just wouldn't be helpful for them to be there, and they probably would be. Friends and neighbors who know the job seeker, community members who have a positive relationship with the job seeker, professionals and service providers, by all means. So in the U.S., this would be, usually, we'll get to this, but you'll have a scribe for the meeting, somebody to write on the charts, and so it would be, somebody else from the organization would be, writing stuff up on the charts. And you would have the vocational rehabilitation counselor in Kentucky who's paid for the meeting. So you have professionals there, but you have people who are unpaid too. It happens pretty soon after completion of the profile. Everybody agrees to it. The job seeker and family must review and amend the profile in advance of the meeting. You determine a time that's convenient for the key people to be there. And often this means after work hours for professionals. A lot of these end up being in the evening, maybe on the weekend. Have a meeting room that has room for everybody for wall charts. So in the U.S., we use places like public libraries, churches, community centers. Want to avoid having it in your office. Even if you have a really nice office, because that could set the tone that it's your meeting, and you want it to be the person's meeting. Okay, people want to have them in their homes. That can work okay, but the biggest problem there is having wall space if you want to put stuff up on the walls. But sometimes people are really insistent, and we just kind of work it out. You want to have food, right? You want to have food and refreshments, and so if you're having it like at a library or a community center, you want to be sure you can bring in food. Tim Tams, you want to be sure to have, especially the caramel ones. Yes. All right, the person who facilitated discovery will facilitate the meeting, maintain a positive direction of the meeting, and have a co-facilitator to assist as a scribe. And of course, that's its own art, is like capturing what people say and, and recording it in a way that represents that. So the three outcomes we're looking for, we're getting to that qualified employer here, are a blueprint that outlines conditions for success, interest and contributions, a task list for each interest area, and a specific list of employers who match the job seeker's interests for success and conditions. Now, that's what you all did for Tim. Same thing, right? Setting the stage. We want to welcome people, be friendly, decide in advance how people will introduce themselves. The first chart, the way I usually do it is I say, okay, y'all don't know each other. I have the name tags for people to fill out and put on. And I say, so I want you to give your name and how you know Bill, and think of something you really admire about him. That's the way I like to do it. And I'm going to give you a couple minutes to think about it. So you can be, what you're going to say without listening to other people. That way you can really listen to other people. So that's the way I like to do that. But that's however you want to do it. You set the ground rules and you post them. We'll look at those in a second. You describe what the outcomes will be. So the ground rules are good employment's the goal. We're not here to discuss whether it's a good idea or not. We're here to work on it. The focus will be employment possibilities that fit the individual. The meeting belongs to the individual, and the job seeker will approve suggestions by the group. Other non-related issues will be discussed at another time and put in another chart that we call the parking lot. And then prioritizing the employer list after they're qualified would be done after, would be a list of qualified employers would be done after the meeting. So this is something I teach a little differently than some people at Mark Golden Associates. I find these meetings run really nicely an hour and a half, 90 minutes. And at the end of that time, you can have a nice list, just like we did here for Tim, of tasks that meet conditions, interest, contributions, companies that might need those tasks, and contact people. It's a really nice way to end the meeting. Wow, look at what we did. Thank you all very much for being here. We'll be in touch. We're going to send out minutes, to the meeting about what we discussed. And usually people will hang around for another 20 minutes and talk to each other. But the last part of the meeting is prioritizing the employer list. So, Tim, which employer should I contact first? And what I find is that's just too tedious to do in a meeting, and it kind of kills the big end of the meeting. So I like to meet with people a couple days later, and we go through the employers that have been identified and prioritize them, analyze them a bit too. Okay, the remaining meetings recorded. So this is basically what it looks like. I'm going to show you an example. It's coming. Okay, so you welcome about 10 minutes for this what's work, what doesn't work thing. It's an icebreaker, I'll show you. Identify characteristics of the ideal job, about 30 minutes, about 15 minutes for task list, about 25 minutes for specific employers and contact people. So here's a meeting for Emily. Welcome everybody, describe the purpose of the meeting. How do you know Emily? What's something you admire about her? And describe the ground rules. I did not facilitate this meeting. It was actually a Zoom meeting, but I did sit in on it. So who's here? Emily, Karen, Milt, Renee, Sheila, Anita, and Annette. Not an ideal number of people, but enough people. Parking lot. I think Emily would really like to join the pool at the Y. Terrific. That sounds like a really good thing. It really does, that would be really nice. But we're going to talk about employment tonight, but we don't want to lose the joining the why, so let's write it on the parking lot. So we write that on the parking lot chart. What works, what doesn't work is a chart you do basically to get people comfortable talking. It's not to flesh out everything you know about Emily. As a matter of fact, some of these things are work conditions, so they can be moved over to that chart later on. They might be interests too, but it's just an idea what kinds of things work well for Emily. Not rushing, not night shifts, not having to write, not loud, rowdy people, but calm, patient people. Getting enough sleep for work, that kind of stuff. Gets people talking. Then you get into the meat of the meeting, which is conditions, interest, and contributions. So what I ask the scribe to do is to take stuff that they see that's already been put down and move it on over to the conditions, interest, and contributions chart when you get there. So we have daytime hours have been moved. Structure, predictability, smaller setting, organized setting. So there are certain conditions you've learned from the profile you want to be sure get on the wall, but you want people to participate. They may name some additional things. Interests, I don't ask for feedback. I say, these are the interests that Emily, her family, and I have been working toward. And the reason I do that is I've seen people name things that are just really kind of off the wall. And you go down a rabbit trail, and so you don't want to do that. I just say, these are the interests. Remember them. And you have them on the wall on the chart as long as you're in a room. And then you deal with contributions, and you take the aspects of contributions that I talked about earlier, things like skills and life experiences and passions and personality characteristics. You take the ones that are most important. So experiences is what this facilitator led with. Some things that Emily has done and participated in. Skills that she has. Contributions she has to make. Personality characteristics. Connections she has. And then tasks. That fit what you've been, her interest areas and things we've been talking about. Businesses that need those tasks. And contact people. This is your qualified list of employers, you see, and you meet with Emily to prioritize them. There were 2 pages of them. That's your qualified employers. Right? So this is where you start your job development. And Emily would say, I want you to start with this store or this company or whatever. And sometimes these companies, it's like the list that y'all made for Tim, you see. And sometimes, there are things you'd really need to explore more about what that would be like. The same thing would be true with a lot of things that y'all named for Tim. Well, let's find out what that's really like, appliance repair, or like the pick apart. That was an interesting idea. Let's go find out how that works and learn a little bit more about it. But what happened here with Emily, what I did here was highlight tasks that actually were identified with this particular company that was like Close Mentor, was on page 2 of the businesses. And this was one of the businesses contacted that was qualified for Emily. And these were the tasks that had been named in her planning meeting that actually you would go armed with on an employer needs benefits analysis when you get to do that. So what this meant was that the job support person would go to the business and present information about how you do business, what customized employment looks like, even if you don't call it customized employment. You talk about the concept. We're interested in finding things that Emily's good at doing and interested in doing that you have in your business. And you would present Emily's visual resume, if you were using a visual resume, and you would with Emily, I think, and she does have one. And they said, yeah, that sounds interesting. And so you arrange a time. Your next step would be go in and do an employer needs benefits analysis. These tasks were found and written up in a customized job description that was approved by the employer, and Emily got a job at Close Mentor, a customized job at Close Mentor.
Graphic text, watch next. Session 3, Part 1, Job Analysis and Support. Closing slide graphic text. With thanks to Milton Tyree, Mark Golden Associates, www.markgold.com, livestream www.beinteractive.com.au. This video was made possible with the support of an Information and Capacity Building grant through the Department of Social Services, produced by Belonging Matters. Belonging Matters makes every effort to provide accurate and up-to-date material. However, information is subject to change and our materials for reference only. This video was filmed on the land of the Wurundjeri Wurrung people of the Kulin Nation. Logos Belonging Matters and TalksThatMatter.net.